Welcome everyone for a webinar with PlaceMakers and SAP. So as part of this month's webinar, we are going to feature PlaceMakers, how PlaceMakers did their digital transformation using SAP Commerce and with partnership with Royal Cyber. Thanks everyone for joining. Go around the table. Today we have Ritesh Patel. So he's the GM of Digital and Transformation at PlaceMakers NZ, a division of Fletcher Building. And I have Scott Bugley. He's a specialist account executive, customer experience at SAP. So thank you. Welcome both Ritesh and Scott. Thanks for joining us today. And I am Magesh Ramamurthy. I'm an engagement manager from Royal Cyber as part of the customer experience division. So today's webinar, we are going to this is a high-level agenda for the webinar. So we will start with Ritesh giving his insight about his experience in the digital journey with PlaceMakers, and followed by that, below Scott Bugley is going to present about SAP Commerce Cloud and how it helped in accelerating the success for PlaceMakers. And next one is we'll talk about Royal Cyber, how what we offer, what Royal Cyber does in the digital space, and at the end of it we will do a Q&A. So during the presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat window of this GoToWebinar, and we'll collate those questions, and at the end of this session we will answer all of them. Okay. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. So, with no further ado, let's pass it on to Ritesh Patel for talking about the digital transformation of PlaceMakers and Frucor buildings. Over to you, Ritesh.
Thanks, Magesh. From an agenda perspective, I'll talk about PlaceMakers, a bit of background on our business, the why, some of the pillars of digital transformation, what we anchored on and what we leaned on to get the results we need. And obviously, we'll open up this to questions from the team. So PlaceMakers is a New Zealand-based organization, 61 branches, 2,500 people. We're $1.3 billion in revenue, and we're part of the New Zealand distribution division, which owns product supplies business called Myco, and obviously Foreman, and that constitutes NZD. And we're part of the overall Fletcher Building New Zealand operations. Next context. So I guess when we go to digital transformation at a strategic level, I guess there were probably three key areas we wanted to start this journey. This program started last year, effectively in September. So it's a relatively new program, and it's just been there for the last 12 months. And we kicked off this whole transformation journey. And the three pillars we leaned on are, we've got to protect our core. We are in the most competitive hardware markets in the world. There's more building supplies, retailers and distributors in New Zealand compared to any other country. PlaceMakers as a business is in the B2B market, and I'll talk some more about market segments later on. But when we mean protect the core, there's a lot of online activity happening in the last 12 months, particularly in this space. Bunnings, which is a retailer very predominant in Australia, is in New Zealand, but in New Zealand they work on the B2B space, so very aggressive in the area. We've got Mitre 10, another competitor, again very aggressive in click and collect. And plus we've got a lot of online competitors coming into this space who are selling the high margin categories, so specialist tool, online like Sydney Tools and other retailers coming to this space. So a lot of activity with competition. The second key area is channel shift. We have 5.1 million analog interaction with our customers per year, 1.3 million phone calls. We do not have a digital self-serve channel. So you can imagine a lot of phone calls, a lot of people, a lot of walk-ins, heavily analog, heavily brick and mortar, and we wanted to shift that analog interaction to digital. 65% of our inquiries when customers call us is, what's the price? Where's my order? Where's my stuff? And those key inquiries, where's my price? Where's my order? What's my stuff? Want to change my order? All of that can be digitized very easily. And the last part is market share. Our ambition is that we want to be the Uber of building supplies. PlaceMakers should be in your pocket. It needs to be so easy to deal with us that whether to your mobile phone or to a desktop solution, it's going to be a seamless interaction in terms of dealing with us. And we believe the more we can make it easier for our customer, the more market share, revenue, online growth we will have. So those are three key areas: protect the core, channel shift, and go for market share. So if you look at our market segment, it's hardware in New Zealand is an $8 billion market, and we'll click Migesh. And one of the key focus areas with digital we want to attack on is our trade builder. Trade builder SME market is a SME builder. They build 1 to 5 houses a year. They're quite a profitable segment for us compared to the commercial or JV builder segment. We don't really play in the retail segment of the market, which is Mitre and Bunnings. So our core focus was how can we build digital solutions and tools to make life easy for the trade SME builder in New Zealand. So if you look at it from a customer lens and put a customer perspective, and that's the builder from Kapiti. He's about 65 years old. He's Jim. He's been a customer for us for 20 years, and he's very loyal to PlaceMakers. But if you look at our customer profile and the persona we're working with, their problems and their pain points is fundamentally what we're trying to solve through a digital program. Where's my delivery? Where's my price? Do you have it in stock? Where's my credit? Where's my estimates? Where are the products? So those are the pain points these guys have on a daily basis. And each of those pain points is usually a call or coming into a store, waiting in line for someone, being in queue, and all of that takes time away from actually work. These builders need to be on their job site building, not in the PlaceMakers branches working with customers or admin. So our job is to make sure we can solve these pain points quite easily and allow them to do what they're good at, which is building and being on the job site. One of the challenges we identified during this transformation is just the distributed environment for PlaceMakers. We run a 20+ year legacy ERP platform called ACE. It is fragmented across 62 branches, which means we don't have a central ERP. Each branch has their own ERP dataset. ACE is a DOS-based ERP, very few APIs. Hasn't been the core code hasn't been touched for about 20 years. So and heavily customized for PlaceMakers. In fact, the product is not supported. So you're dealing with a very legacy core ERP base. And our challenge is, we've got a very complex pricing strategy. We've got to retrieve in 1 second a price for a customer and hit about 52 million price permutations at any point of time. And how do you bring that customer their price within that large data set? So we had a challenge. We also had the customer information being fragmented also as a major challenge. And how do you bring all of that information together in a core digital stack, which really relies on modern day ERP systems? So it was our starting position from a technology perspective wasn't fantastic. So I guess we leaned on 4 key areas to really win the digital race. From the beginning, yes, we are in a very competitive market. Our competitors are well ahead in their digital journeys, Bunnings, Mitre, Carter's, and we just start from zero and try and beat them. So we leaned on 4 things: invest now to build a platform of the future. We looked at all our stack, and look, to put a new ERP, SAP system is going to take 3 years of our lives, millions of dollars of transformation, and we can't wait for that. We looked at our partners like SAP Commerce Cloud. We looked at their technology stack, looked at middleware platforms, and decided that what's the right stack for us to accelerate our digital journey. And we really went for those stacks. So we're Salesforce, SAP, MuleSoft, Solus, all of those key enabling platforms which allow us to build the customer experience online. We leaned on partnerships. It's quite hard to get digital skill sets in New Zealand at best of times. So who are our core partners which will help us accelerate this journey? We worked with Royal Cyber in the past, and they're a core partner. We work with Deloitte, work with SAP, We've brought in key partners to help us accelerate the outcomes. We didn't do it all ourselves through Fletcher's or group technology, so we leaned on heavily on that. And then we had to fundamentally change our ways of working. Fletcher's group technology, we are a traditional waterfall organization. To accelerate outcomes at pace is no way we could waterfall this project. We had to move to an agile methodology, and then the methodology we selected was Scale Agile. And you know, we invested heavily. I think last time about $400,000 to $500,000 in retraining about 70 people in this organization on how to be a product owner, how to be a scrum master, how to run Scale Agile teams. We went through a very large journey on people to bring these platforms for life. And the last thing is moving away from a team which is, you know, looking at features and function, but really having stable cross-discipline product-focused team which are gelled together to deliver the outcomes we need. So they were the 4 key areas. And this model just shows you our market segment from B2C to B2B, from your retail hardware customer segment to the commercial builder. When I mean commercial builder, these are builders who build tall vertical buildings. The group home builder builds houses like GJ Gardner. The SME builder does the 1 or 5 houses a year in renovations and specialist trades. So our digital portfolio need to address the B2C segment right to the B2B segment. And the products I'll talk about is our shop.placemakers, a B2C offer, a PlaceMakers trade app, which is the offer for the SME builder, and our trade portal, which looks at the GHB commercial customers. Perfect. So in the last 90 days, we as a team started in September, and this is all agile, so we've been releasing this functionality over time. But by August, we had launched all our digital platforms. Skip to counter is an interesting feature on our PlaceMakers trade app. It's like the Amazon Go experience. A builder can come to PlaceMakers, pick up load their truck with what they need, and basically open their app, show a QR code. The QR code seamlessly interfaces or just scans our Yard app, and the builder instantly checks out from the store. No more waiting in line 15, 20 minutes and wasting their time. It's the Amazon Go experience for the building supplies industry. We've launched our trade portal for the commercial GHB builder, allows them to look at what's my price, where's my order, all of those key questions they were asking, collect from any branch. We had to really integrate us. It's got a live stock management system, so when they go into the trade portal, they can see live inventory, not only their home branch, but any of our 61 branches in New Zealand. They can look at pricing from their jobs to their accounts and multiple pricing tiers. All of the complexities looked after for, and obviously when they check out, they can book a courier, they can click and collect, or they can use a normal courier for their order. So multiple delivery types, multiple options. The trader, again, a great tool, very similar functionality as the trade portal, where you can view my orders, track your orders like an Uber style, and there's notifications and comms. You can manage your team permissions. You can allow certain people to access the app, not see pricing, not order, all of those key functionality, live inventory, live trade pricing, all of those key features are available on our trade app. And lastly is our shop.placemakers. We do not have a B2C solution in market, and we've launched our B2C solution in market now with click and collect from 60 branches in New Zealand. So all of these solutions are all powered by the SAP Hybris Commerce Stack, from skip to counter, the trade portal to the trade app, and the shop.placemakers, B2C, B2B, all in one seamless platform. Have we got this working? All right. This is Scott Brown. He's one of those YouTube influencers who actually build a house and then record them. Do you watch him?
I watch him.
Yeah. So and he did a really good little piece on the PlaceMakers trade app. So we'll get him.
You use it, I think.
Scott Brown here. PlaceMakers have released a new trade app. The PlaceMakers trade app makes ordering materials easier. You can order and collect the materials yourself, or have them delivered on site with 1 or 2 hour express courier, or overnight. The app acts as a PlaceMakers branch in your pocket, giving you everything you need to know about where your orders are at, so you can focus on the job. The app sends notifications about the status of your order and lets you know when it's ready, so you can keep working while you wait or stop and enjoy your morning coffee. Sweet. It's ready. So you can check the status and revise the order right up until it's packed. And if you have a team, you can adjust the permissions so they can view or make orders too. There we go, ready to pick up. Here's my order number.
So Brown?
The PlaceMakers Trade app saves you time so you can keep working on the job while they pack your order. There's also a new feature coming out next month that lets you skip the counter altogether. You can grab the latest under construction and store for more. So you can download the PlaceMakers Trade app on Google Play or the Apple App Store. Click on the link in the description below for more.
So I guess, so I've touched on the technology piece, I touched on the product. I think in a B2B context, digital transformation doesn't work if you just launch an app, a portal, particularly when your branches have been working in a very analog way for the last 20 plus years. So I think a large part of our digital transformation, it starts with our people. We really have to onboard and train our branches in new ways of working. Because otherwise we don't change behaviors, particularly behaviors on our customer side and our branch side. Digital transformation, in my opinion, just fails. And there's a lot of fails case study, and it's not usually technology, it's just operation and people change. So a large part of our efforts in transformation, apart from the build phase and agile and working with great partners in technology, was really taking our entire 2,500 people on a journey. We've launched digital leadership programs where we train all our operators on how the impact of digital. We've launched telesales training on digital. We launched training programs on how reps engage in a digital manner, how they talk to their customers. You got to remember, our telesales and our reps, they know how they're good at is selling timber and gym. Now he's saying, when you call me, I'll answer your price, but look, why don't you next time use the app or log on to the trade portal? That requires a lot of confidence by our employees to channel shift, and it doesn't happen in a natural manner. So that change program and having them enunciate and articulate, thanks for the call, here's your price, but next time use the Apple portal, it's a massive behavior change, and it shouldn't be underestimated. And a large part of our efforts is just driving that adoption within our branch network and within our people. We've launched a plethora of micro online learning modules. So these are 6-7-minute modules which talk about digital concepts, the app, the portal, the benefits for the customer in bite-sized approaches, which allow our people to engage across New Zealand, particularly with COVID and everything. We couldn't travel, so we relied heavily on online and micro learning modules to drive this change. And just your branch engagement with customers, having the one-on-ones and meeting them in branch, having branch breakfast, allowing our customers to come and talk to us, running promotions, incentives. Right now, we're running a promotion in Christchurch where if you buy anything through the app or the portal, you instantly get a 5% discount. And all of those incentives, promotions are really critical if you want to grow your business to an online business. We're going from 0% digital, and our goal for June next year is to go 5%, and by June 2020 is to go June 2022 is to go to 20% of digital. So, and by 2025 we want to be at 50% of digital transactions. But the engagement, the incentives, the staff training are all critical part of the channel shift. So I want to just briefly touch on the Scale Agile. The pictures you're seeing here was our first PI planning event we held, and that was probably 9 months ago. 9 months ago, right? 9 months ago, we had our first PI event, big room planning, 2 days, and we never did Scale Agile before as an organization, and this whole journey was quite critical. I generally believe that the Scale Agile pivot in this organization helped us push through COVID. Our productivity as a team, the way we worked, the way we engaged did not drop through COVID, the 2 lockdowns we had in New Zealand, and the team really delivered on that. And part of that was the discipline process Scale Agile brought into a development cycle. The way we do scale agile at PlaceMakers, we every product, so we've got currently 3 major products: our trade app, our trade portal, our B2C site. Each of them has a product owner. Each of them has a self-contained team of about 8 to 9 people, and that one team works on one product. They've got a backlog of work, and they work through a 12-week cycle, and they deliver functionality every couple of weeks. A large part of our change program was to bring in technical agility, particularly DevOps, having CI/CD pipelines, bringing test automation throughout this process. And look, and those things do take time. But now we're approaching a 4th PI planning session next week, and you can see the teams maturing. They're working better. We've got test automation right now. We've got DevOps happening in the team right now, and all of this from a zero start. So I'm really pleased with the outcome. And I think if you ask me the 2 or 3 things we did right, I think having SAP as our core platform, having Scale Agile as a ways of working, and having a partner like Royal Sable were all critical to bring the solution together.
Thanks, Ritesh.
Lastly is shop.placemakers. We do have an online platform now where you can buy 14,000 products online. It's got live inventory. You can click and collect from our branches. Our goal is to grow this to 50,000 SKUs by next year, have it fully integrated with our supplier solution. And apart from the trade app and trade portal, a major focus for us now will be to grow our B2C and B2X strategy. Not so much in retail, but more on the sub-trade market. So in terms of our product roadmap, we've got a lot of functionality to deliver. Right now, in Q2, we're going to Q3. We are bringing in accounts, invoices, integration to the trade portal. We're bringing in delivery integration and prices and zones to the trade portal and app. Bringing in feature called estimates. A large part of our building cycle is that they buy through estimates. It's not a buy button like retail. They'll all buy through a job and estimates account. So we're bringing estimates feature into that. We're integrating our telesales system and our CRM system to our digital platforms. And you can see in Q4, live delivery tracking, job pages, in bringing jobs to life as a core feature. And we've got a roadmap for the next 2 years actually. So we've just started this journey. We've finished Q1, finished Q2. We've got 2 more quarters left of functionality. We'll deliver massive change program, and this is a 3-year journey for us from a transformation perspective. Along the way, I'm really proud of the team. We're a finalist right now in the top 3 best digital transformation projects in New Zealand. Actually, it's being announced tonight, so we'll know where we stand. And we recently won in the Best Design Awards for our trade app, which won some awards from a digital perspective, from a product design perspective. So I'm really pleased with the outcome for the team.
Thank you, Ritesh. Thanks for a very, very insightful presentation. I think it's very valuable input for our attendees. Thanks for the inputs. Over to you, Scott, to take us through the SAP Commerce Cloud and how it helped in accelerating PlaceMakers.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and I've really enjoyed it. Your presentation, Ritesh. It's great to hear from customers like yourselves, and I can confirm that I am a subscriber to Scott Brown's YouTube channel.
There you go.
And he is indeed an influencer that seems to have found me through the algorithms of things that I browse as a DIYer. But come this Christmas, I'll be working at home, working on what's called negative detailing of putting up plywood on my bedroom walls. So we'll see how we go with that with Scott's guidance. But I just really wanted to move through a quick sort of overview of who SAP is, and particularly who we are in commerce and customer experience, because we're obviously most famous for ERP, but my area in customer experience is alongside that, shall we say. I'll then quickly talk about some stories from what we're seeing in our customer base in these times of lockdowns and people increasingly shopping digitally for reasons to do with the pandemic. Then I'll quickly look at why people come with us, and then look at some stories perhaps from other industries, from 3 New Zealand customers that are close to my heart because I've been involved with them. So that's some things that I think parallel with the PlaceMakers journey. And finally, we'll just have a quick look at the architecture to say how, and I'll try and make that in business terms as much as I can. But look, SAP Commerce Cloud has been on the Gartner Magic Quadrant for 6 years now as a leader, and we process 500 billion, that's US dollars, in gross merchandise value through the platform. So we have a reasonable measure across the world of what's happening in commerce if we just look inside our systems. Some 3,500 customers. And I think most importantly for new architectures and the way Agile is going and things like that, our standard go live is now less than 5 months. Our fastest is 14 days. We have a customer in Australia that went live in 5 weeks from the time they called us, not from the time they signed the contract. It was some 2 weeks later, but they had an imperative. It was COVID related. They went live in effectively 5 minus 1.5 for contracting. So that's the speed at which things have changed. But in terms of what we're seeing in the market, we're seeing e-commerce, as I'm sure you've seen from PlaceMakers and everybody else, it's not going to be news to you, grow at 5 times faster across all channels, across all industries. It's somewhat more than that in B2B, than the growth rate of all other channels. And in terms of what's happened in the pandemic, we've had, I think it's a quarter of, or a third of the world's population has experienced extended stay-at-home orders. So they're obviously going to have to shop in a different way and indeed work in a different way for your B2B customer. We've had the locations, so if you could roll back to that one. We've had quite a few locations, obviously a lot of businesses and locations, as we all have experienced, have been closed. But in the IT industry, we're lucky enough that we can do projects such as yours and get by with Zoom, and we've got real good at it through necessity. But physical businesses, I'm sure we've all experienced, particularly in the hardware game, using click and collect for the first time. And I know some other customers who happen to be your competitors have hit their 5-year growth targets during that 2 months, you know, in terms of online. So it's happening real, and it's happening in a really big way. But even with restrictions lifted, what we're seeing, and if you could roll to the next slide now, is that the growth in order volumes driven to online, attributable to COVID-19, is staying high. So one of my customers told me they've seen 3 years change in 3 months. You know, in that 3 months at the start of the year when everyone was going through this. So that was a short overview of what we're seeing, and you know, emphasising what you said, Ritesh, about what's changing in the market. But why are we doing this? Firstly, we're seeking to optimize experiences. So how do we understand the context and the different types of engagement that you guys have described all on one platform, so that we can optimize that experience to what the customer wants? How do we simplify it? B2B customers expect, especially I find in the trades industries, they hate administration. They hate paperwork. They hate having to, I don't know, work out how and when to pay the order relative to the quote that they did for a customer in a job that's flying through your systems to allow them to draw down off it. And that's quite a complex process if they have to do that reconciliation. If you can be the best place to shop in B2B, we find they often come back again and again, and that can help your margin. And finally, be agile. So how do we make sure that we can deliver engagements customers want anytime, anywhere, but as their circumstances change and as their demands on you change, how do we respond quickly and beat the competition? In short, our platform, I don't think, is for if you just want best of breed out of the box. Our platform is if you want to create, if you want to innovate, and if you want to keep changing and keep competing and staying ahead. I would suggest SAP Commerce Cloud is the one for you. Looking at some of our customers, and there's that 3,500, and I just wanted to pick out 3 here for some things they've done in industries other than your own, because quite often that cross-industry learning is most interesting. Frucor Suntory, New Zealand's largest drinks manufacturer and distributor, they have been on SAP Commerce B2B for a couple of years now. And imagine your job as a Frucor Suntory sales rep, driving one of those little V cars around, going into a dairy and trying to get an order in under 8 minutes because you've got to be at the next one in 12. Right? And then imagine doing that on a dairy with a 1 out, 1 in policy during a COVID-19 lockdown. They are allowed to open. That shopkeeper did not want you in his shop. You were a customer lost, right? So they saw a huge shift to online, And one of the important things they did is they gamified what their sales reps experienced, so that the sales rep actually got compensated if someone ordered online from their territory just as much as if they got the order face to face. And they had a leaderboard for the sales rep. They didn't pay them anymore, but they just displayed a leaderboard in the staff room to say, you're the ones who've driven the most online sales. And that's been hugely effective on their uptake. Another one I'll pick out is Sigma Healthcare. It's a large Australian pharmaceuticals and other healthcare products companies. And they have they're a franchise operator. So they have hundreds and thousands of franchisees who have to order from their central ordering system and not ring up and bother the call center. So in a sense, the franchisees are like your tradespeople. They utilized SAP Commerce along with Qualtrics, our customer, our experience management solution, to actually intercept in digital transactions at key points and ask customers, why did you drop out there? What could have been better about that step in the process? They fed all of that input back in to the system, and they got a 35% increase in the proportion of orders that went through online. And the final one I want to pick out is Mercury. Well, as you just around the corner from where we sit, New Zealand primarily power company, but like all power companies, they're selling all sorts of other things. They put the commerce platform in, yeah, it was a new front end, but one of the key things was agility of pricing, because when you live at a certain suburb and have a certain power supplier and a certain type of type of meter, you get a certain bill, and they had to work out the margin and be able to rapidly put offers into the market based on that underlying area. So they moved a lot of that final logic up out of ERP into the commerce layer. So I think that's 3 examples there that probably solve problems that you've also looked at. If you could just go backwards in the door, please, and start with the commerce core in the middle. So when we put commerce into the, when we had all those customers back in the day, commerce used to be selected mainly because it had more in the box than any other platform. It had a web content management system, it had a product information management system, it had order management, it had search, and the list goes on. You could sort of list 10 or 12 things that were all in one block. But people started to tell, and we were number 1, right? And people started to tell us that that block is monolithic. That block is slow to change. That block means waterfall projects, right? So we had to change this commerce platform. So the first thing we did, if you could click, is release a progressive storefront called Spartacus, which is an agile JavaScript storefront, which can separate the front end experience from the commerce core. And you can then progress upgrades to that front end experience at a much, much faster daily, if you like, cadence than you would do a traditional commerce core upgrade. If you could click again. We then put together some platform as a service capabilities that allow you to administer the tenants and way that your commerce core and your Spartacus front ends are deployed, operated, and moved through development, testing, and into production. And that's really reduced the TCO of operating the platform for many of our customers. And then we then partnered with Google to do something called the Extension Factory based on KYMA, K-Y-M-A. That means that you can move the enhancements you make to the commerce core out of the core and put them side by side so they're on a separate deployment and code base. That way, when a cloud-based upgrade to the commerce core comes along, you can adopt the things we have built without excessively needing to test the way that you've customized that core. And finally, and most recently, we're now releasing true web servers or true API-based services for key components, which will allow you to decouple some of those key components from the core and move them and potentially use something other than ours, for example, alongside aspects of our platform in conjunction with Spartacus. So that's really why we were not content to be number 1 but monolithic and had to break the system up into pieces to allow organizations, I think, such as yourselves to be much more agile. And then finally, just to highlight where it sits inside of the SAP customer experience portfolio, it's fair to say it's the Rolls-Royce of our portfolio for sure, but we have a broad capability. Customer data management is an area we're particularly focusing on right now with the release of our customer data platform, and also some key acquisitions in marketing with an acquisition of a company called Amasis just recently. but we do span the full gambit, but at the same time, we have an architecture that's open. And so when you talk about Salesforce and other vendors, it's not your traditional SAP where it's any color you want except blue. We're part of a modern architecture and a modern ecosystem now. So yeah, that's a quick summary of commerce, and I hope some parallels and how it ties in with PlaceMakers.
Thanks, Scott. It's very relevant and very up to date. Thanks for bringing the up to date information on SAP. So I'll take a few minutes to talk about where Royal Sabre sits in the mix. So Royal Sabre is basically we are a strategic partner for PlaceMakers and a long-term implementation partner of SAP Commerce and the Customer Cloud modules. So Royal Sabre specializes in areas like commerce, cloud implementations. Have good capability in mobile. We have our in-house AI/ML division, which turns out search AI/ML-based search solutions. We have good integration capability. So we have a division that focuses on integration using Kafka, MuleSoft, Solus kind of technologies. So as an IT company, we have about 800 plus people around the world. Our key development centers are in India, Karachi, and US. We have other offices in Canada, Saudi Arabia, Australia, and New Zealand as well. With 90 plus clients and also partnership with strong leading technology platforms like SAP Commerce Cloud. Some of our case studies or our successful projects include office brands based out of Australia, major office supplies company. So which did work on e-commerce development for office brands. It has a very complex ERP structure like PlaceMakers, having multiple ERP systems all tied together with our commerce platform. Rent a Center is basically a US-based multi-billion-dollar company who specializes in renting equipments and electricals and home appliances and everything. So it's a different business model that people do not buy, they rent things from us. We have David Bridle. So they basically do bridal dresses. They do about 30% of US bridal costumes they sell. We have PlaceMakers, one of our biggest customers in this region. HD Supplies is similar to PlaceMakers. They do hardwares and stuff. So it's a large brand in US. So we did e-commerce for them, SAP Commerce for them. So these are some of few things which we did. And as a service, basically we have we spend most of our resources on like getting hybrids upgraded to the latest versions, doing assessments like migration assessments for them, improving on search and navigation. We have AI-powered search and AI and natural language-based search solution, which we use to augment the e-commerce experience for our customers. We have a very strong quality assurance automation tool, which is called TIF. So which basically groups together a bunch of open source testing tools, and it is a strong suite for automating your testing needs. We do provide a follow the sun model for managed services. So these are some of our products and services we offer. So as part of a complimentary package for our participants today. So especially with these challenging times when there is a critical need for doing more IT work and to keep the business up and running, and also improvising and keeping up with the times. We do offer complimentary professional services. So it is a 1 week service which you can use it for anything like your upgrade assessments or performance tuning of your platform, or just or to evaluate to come up with a roadmap for your e-commerce strategy. Right, so you can use it for any of those needs. So you can reach out to Royal Server for taking up this complimentary service. And of course, with the current situation, if we can also we're also giving a deferred payment option for our customers, where we can do the work now and pay later when the global pandemic situation improves. Okay. So with that, I will open up for any questions from the participants. I do see some questions rolling in from the participants in the chat. So if as much as time permits, we will just spend a few minutes to take up some questions. Question for Ritesh. So Ritesh, so you have done digital transformations in your previous organizations, as like worked in different industries. Like how was PlaceMakers different from any other industry in terms of going digital? Right? So
that's an interesting question. So if I compare the office supplies industry, the wine liquor industry, and probably building supplies, I think customer profiles and propensity models are different. I think one of the easiest industries to digitize, we did it 10 years ago, was the office supplies industry, based on the type of product consumable. Office supplies industry was disrupted heavily by Apple with the iPhone, iPad, no paper. So you're instantly, your 30% of your 40% of your core product categories were affected by technology and were disrupted by technology. So you had to pivot very quickly, and office supplies were the early pioneers of e-com. It took e-com very quickly, and the business model supported small, light products, easily transportable. So it was prime for e-com. If I compare this to building supplies, right now in New Zealand, very traditional market, very analog market. Those industries, you could build a website, release to the market, and they would naturally gravitate towards it. In this industry, it's a lot of significant amount of change management, taking the customers and build on a journey, the reason, selling them the why, and you just, if you give them an app without a proper change program, it will fail. So fundamentally, you're not doing digital, you're changing behaviors, and behavior change is fundamental in the building supplies industry, because people, even if I ask you to fold your arms, you'll fold your arm in a certain way. If I ask you to fold your arm the other way and do it constantly, it's going to be hard. And I think it's the same thing for a builder who wakes up in the morning, 6 a.m., 6:30, goes to his ute, on the way to work. Oh, I might need 10 2x4s, 5 jibs, calls Mary at telesales, and there's a 30-second conversation. Now you're asking them, hey, don't call Mary, open the app. And it's a fundamental behavior change. And that piece requires a lot more work rather than technology. So the change program is quite significant.
Like, what made you choose SAP for this problem? Right?
I think a couple of things. I think SAP was a leader, got a top quadrant, but I think the two functionality and features which came through is we run our legacy backend system, as I explained, fragmented for 60 branches. So the order management capability of SAP was quite strong for us to choose the platform. The customization of the SAP platform, because we're building a solution to the building supplies industry, and you're not building a buy button like B2C. So you have to fundamentally look at what problems you're trying to solve. And we did a platform where you could build estimations, job management, and all of this functionality relevant to the building supplies industry, which frankly was customization pieces of work. So if you want and if we could have launched the trade portal or the trade app without those features, but fundamentally the industry doesn't work like retail, right? It is a job management, it is estimations, it's a different train of thought, different buying pattern compared to B2C. So that development capability was quite critical for us. The PIM capability was also another factor.
Great, thanks, Ritesh. One question for you, Scott. So you touched upon MS's acquisition and how it is integrated. Can you talk more about it? How it is relevant for customer, for the customer segment, right? How does it improve the customer experience?
Yeah, so Emasis is a Gartner leader in the field of personalization. So driving personalized longitudinal journeys which span commerce to in-store and so forth. And they're also a leader in what's called independent multi-channel marketing capabilities. So there's only so much I can say, as the ink's been dry on the contract for about 14 days. But from initial conversations we've had with them from staff to staff, it's been awesome. They're not arrogant marketers. They are incredibly open and pleased to be joining, and we in the CX game particularly are pleased to be joining them. One thing that I hope, and I'm sure that we will have a reverse takeover with regard to with them, is the way they've architected their marketing platform is that it's for a marketer, it's not for a data person. It starts with strategy, and then it suggests tactics, and then it drives you down into the data. And I think that that's around the other way than we've had it, and that's an area that I'm particularly hoping that it takes that strategy through to execution and brings a flavour and a culture to us that we will use more and more across other pillars in our CX platform.
Thanks, Scott. And the next question, I'll pick the one for you. So we talked about the customer data platform, right? So I think there's some session about customer data platform. Can you provide more information about it, how it is relevant in your current situation, and how it is different from other customer data platforms?
Yeah, look, I think SAP being SAP, we've a much cited marketing stat from us, but I believe it to be true. It's 72% of the transactions that occur in the world touch an SAP system somewhere, whether it's the vendor or the seller, whether it's an analytics platform at one or the other, or the ERP at one or the other. So we've got a lot of data. And when you think about data about customers, is the data that we kind of gather as marketers, and I have a marketing degree, so it's my background, but there's a whole lot of deeper data that sits inside transactional systems and first-party data that you have that's an absolute goldmine. And when personalization legislation starts to come into the marketing game, I think we're going to be looking more and more about sweating that latter asset, and perhaps less being able to divine information from things we harvest from other sources. So SAP's approach to our CDP has been, firstly, that we base it on our acquisition of a company called Geekia, who is the leading customer identity and access management solution. So that's all about giving customers control, and it's about trust, and we've built it on that platform of trust. And secondly is that we're really taking an enterprise-wide, not just a marketing CDP. We'll use it for marketing and we'll use it for customer experience, but we're considering everything we know about data about customers.
That's good. And next question, I think it's the last question I have here. So to you, Ritesh, so about the scaled agile journey which you took. So kind of most agile, especially scaled agile, demands people to be co-located. How do you work with Royal Server to achieve your have people from Royal Server work from different locations? How do you do scaled agile?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Look, when we first started on a journey, co-location was quite important, but and this is the beauty of what we went through COVID. Actually, it actually forced us to think and how can we work virtually. We've got Royal Server teams in Bangalore and Karachi and in Chicago, so we've got 3 locations. The Indian team starts at 1 o'clock New Zealand time, works at 8 o'clock, and actually all our Scrum ceremonies and rituals are from 1 o'clock with our onshore team right through 5 or 6 o'clock. When it comes to PI planning usually 2 days. We do it over 3 days. Again, the 1 to 6 o'clock time frame, and all our teams participate in all the ceremonies. The planning ceremonies, the evaluation, the retrospectives, all of that. And frankly, look, I think in the beginning the team found it a bit difficult in how to interact, but I think over the last 3 months, and particularly when everyone has been working remotely, it's just became second nature to us. So I think one fortunate benefits of COVID, it did force us to look at remote working quite seriously as an option to work with a global talent pool of people.
Great, it worked for us, Ritesh. Yeah.
And by the way, every Royal Server person has gone through the scale agile training, which are the onshore people have gone through. That was a big part of it also.
Right, Ritesh, thank you. I think we kind of answered all the questions, I guess. Okay, there are no more
I could
questions.
propose one to Ritesh if you like, because I'm genuinely interested.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
With the digital transformation that you undertook, and with the aging technology under the covers that you mentioned, how did you achieve that? How did you do that without, how do you get a single source of the truth so that the customer experience was trusted? And how did you sort of hide that from the customer experience?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of tactics we had to do from an engineering perspective. Firstly, we had to look at what's the source of truth for the customer master. So we did build a customer master platform, and we ingest data from all of those 63 platforms centrally. We had to bring a customer master for product inventory. So we have a PIM platform underwriting that, and same with inventory. Inventory and pricing. So we had to aggregate a lot of those platforms through big data warehouses across the whole branches to create that. We had to work through clever integration systems, and particularly MuleSoft and Solid, so core platforms. And the key for us was speed, because you think about a customer experience, they've logged in, they put a keyword in.
You've got to persist the data.
We've got to persist the data. So what we keep at the Hybris level is the PIM master, but every inventory and every price comes from live databases. It comes from live core systems. So when a customer chooses a branch Mount Wellington as their core branch, instantly the Hybris platform is talking to the live ACE branch platform and bringing pricing and data through that. So data is staged at multiple levels from customer master and PIM, but transactional change and data, which changes a lot with price and inventory, they're actually API live through inventory platform.
Yeah, it's a challenge everybody faces, and but good to see from my perspective doing the head first to the customer, but first the high value bit. And
I think so too. I think otherwise things change too much and you're not competitive enough.
Yeah, and now how do you handle when you've got those multiple store owners, each with their own customers, and they might have a little bit of possession there?
Yeah,
as a lot of companies have that. How do you handle things like end of sale and supply from one?
So it's a great question. So look, endless sale is quite critical for us. So that hasn't been a barrier. But what is interesting that the SAP platform allowed us to have this functionality called Collect from Any Branch, which allowed you as a customer of branch in Hornby to collect your goods from the app or the portal from a branch in Mount Wellington, and we can orchestrate that through order management. Basically, and then your home branch is still Hornby, but you could collect from any 60 branches in New Zealand.
Right.
And that was a technology feature which allowed us to.
So I suppose if you grow the total pie, eventually all the owners are
absolutely
happy. All the
absolutely.
managers.
Because you think about it, you build in a job site, right? You know, while they buy major products through estimations and job management and contracts, they are the consumer goods, and that's where the app comes in. So rather than walking or going to a competitor, the nearest competitor, they open up the app, transact with us.
Exactly. Cool. Interesting to hear.
Interesting, Ritesh. Okay, thank you everyone for joining. It's a wonderful evening, having a very valuable discussion with Ritesh and Scott. Thanks for joining us today. Looking forward to having this partnership for long term. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.